accountable. Well, we have to understand how people become addicted in the first place. 80% of heroin users start with a legal prescription drug. 70% of them get them from a friend, a relative, or what's laying around in the medicine cabinet. So I've been saying, let's get at the root cause of it. Let's cut off the supply chain. And that's why I'm proud to stand here and tell you that I'm one of the leaders in a 40-state investigation into the opioid manufacturing industry. And make no mistake, we will hold these pharmaceutical companies accountable for the destruction that they have inflicted in Pennsylvania and across America. But I also need you to join me in this fight. We've got the potential for people to become addicted just based upon what's laying around in the medicine cabinet. So join us in this fight and dispose of these unused prescription drugs. Last year in Pennsylvania, they disposed of 26 tons in the whole year. We're focused on working in communities all across Pennsylvania to get them to increase that. We're 7-8 months into this year. We've already disposed of 29 tons of those drugs. And in communities where they don't have access to a drop box, like some parts of Lehigh County, we're giving away drug deactivation pouches where people can throw away their own medication. In these deactivation pouches, little water, little bit of the filter that's in there, seal it up, throw it away in an environmentally safe way. You can help us defeat this epidemic by taking some control and throwing away these prescription drugs. Here's what else you can do. Lend your voice to the cause and make sure that policymakers are doing what they need to do to access treatment. Treatment has to be a part of it. We have this insane system where we decide it's better to incarcerate someone in a county jail for $24,000 a year when you could be spending $6,000 a year and give them real drug and alcohol treatment. We have federal laws that are set up to make it harder to get access to treatment beds. We have insurance company policies, get this friends, we have insurance company policies that say to a doctor, hey, you don't have to call us and get pre-authorization to prescribe 60 days of oxy, but boy, oh boy, you want 14 days of treatment, it's gonna take you 13 days to work through our bureaucracy in an insurance company. We have to hold these insurance companies accountable, and that's what we're doing. The chief spoke earlier about President Trump's national declaration. Some of you who follow me know I've got my differences with President Trump. I've sued him a whole bunch of times, and by the way, won every single time I've sued him. But I will also stand up and tell you when I agree with him. And I agree with him on this declaration. Here's the problem. He hasn't finished the job. It's one thing to stand up and declare something. It's a whole other thing to actually sign the paper and make sure that the dollars flow. So I've called on the president to do 3 things. Number 1, create access to treatment beds. We have this federal law that says you can't use Medicaid to reimburse for treatment at a facility where there's more than 16 beds. There's actually a law that says that. The president, through a stroke of a pen, can nullify that for the purposes of an emergency and get treatment. That's the first thing he needs to do. The second thing he needs to do is support us in law enforcement with greater resources. And the third thing he needs to do is make sure we in law enforcement can go out and have the tools to realize and decipher where fentanyl is present out in the community, because fentanyl is what's claiming lives. Those are 3 tangible things the president can do right away. And you know what? For as much as I've opposed him on things, I'll stand shoulder to shoulder with him if he's willing to come help us here in Pennsylvania, and that's a concrete way he can do that. And I hope the president will actually take those concrete steps. Now listen. At the end of the day, and this is where I'll close, it's not just about policy and data. It is about people. And I have been touched by people all across this Commonwealth who are battling addiction, and people like you who have lost loved ones who have succumbed to addiction. Yesterday in Beaver County, I met the mom and dad and sister of Jonathan Levitt. Jonathan was a 22-year-old scholar athlete, a star hockey player. He was a surfer and an artist. And he was one of the people that bought what he thought was heroin, turned out to be fentanyl, from that dealer we charged in Beaver County yesterday. It's real easy for the public to not understand what Jonathan's parents are going through. It's real easy for some people to not even understand what Jonathan was going through. It's easy to dismiss people as druggies or drug addicts. But when you hear the stories, you realize that Jonathan represents all of us. He was 16. I have a nearly 16-year-old. I've got 4 young kids. I think about this all the time. He was 16 when he developed a throat infection. And his parents, because they love him, took him to the doctor to get looked at. And they determined he had this really serious throat infection. And they prescribed him OxyContin when he was 16 years old. After a couple days, he was addicted. A couple years later, when his dad had back surgery and his dad got some painkillers, he started stealing from his dad. The pills turned to heroin. And no matter how many times he went in and out of the cycle of getting care, he couldn't overcome it. And he succumbed to it on Valentine's Day of this year. I want people to understand who Jonathan is. I want people to understand that these are folks who many times didn't make the decision to become drug addicts, but ultimately were set on that path because of a responsible decision that was made, but got them addicted. We understand that in the Office of Attorney General. We have compassion in our hearts, not for the dealers, but for you and all of the people that you represent. And we recognize that this is our top priority. This is our #1 call. Yes, we're going out, we're trying to keep children safe online and make sure there's fewer illegal guns in the communities and protect seniors from scams and all of the other things we do to protect your rights and make sure our environment is clean. But at the end of the day, nothing is claiming more lives. Nothing is costing us more treasure in this Commonwealth than the heroin and opioid crisis. And I want you to know, as your Attorney General, I am focused like a laser beam on dealing with this in a multi-pronged way, in a compassionate way, and never forgetting the Jonathan Levitts of the world and all of the people that you here tonight represent. Thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for being here. And thank you for breaking the stigma that exists around so much of this and speaking up and speaking out and being present and giving all of us hope. I choose to be hopeful tonight, and I thank you for being here. Thank you all very much.